Hey guys, gals, and impies. I'm here today with the Oberheim Teo-5 module. It finally came out. I only really got rid of the Teo-5 and the Take-5 mainly because I did not like the keyboard form factor at all. I'm not a big fan of keyboard form factors, and like I said in my previous video where I was getting rid of my large synths, I need synths that can go with me in case, things happen. And yeah, so the Teo-5, got from Perfect Circuit. I said I'm switching over to them, and yeah, they had them on stock already, and I ended up grabbing it. And yeah, I'm super stoked with it so far. I've been using it pretty much all morning. It came even I got Saturday delivery, so that's really cool. It's something that certain other retailer doesn't even support unless you do awful ground shipping with them, and then you have to just hope that it comes on a Saturday or a Sunday. You don't get to really choose. But yeah, it's great, and we're gonna go over some things. I still think it's one of the. I really tried to believe that there are other better analog synths on the market, and there's really not, in my opinion, for this price point. I mean, yeah, the Polybrute's amazing, and it does sound absolutely fantastic, and it does have a super complex modulation matrix and things like that. But it has a nice sound. It's just not a SEM filter. The Parker Steiner filter on that actually sounds good, but it's just not my kind of filter, and this is great. And yeah, I'll probably end up getting the Take-5 module as well with all the other stuff that I sold recently. So the Summit just finally made it to a new user or owner, so I'm glad about that. I hope they really enjoy it as much as I did. But yeah, desktop synths. The only large synth I'm keeping is not even a synth. Technically, it's a keyboard, and that's the Astrolab. It makes a good MIDI controller too, but I am actually in the market for a new MIDI controller. I probably want to get a launch key Mark IV, but the 49 key. I want something with split capability. 25 is sitting off screen right here. So here, oops. I just already, played the It's an Oberheim patch. But yeah, let's just have some fun with it, and let me reminisce about why I like this synth so much. Okay, the first thing I don't like about it, I think Oberheim slash Sequential dropped the ball on this. So yes, it comes with a new manual. You can even see here, sorry for the exposure, I have audio exposure set, but shows the module on there, right? But if we go into the section, let me see if I can find it. It's in one of the early pages. It's on how to create an init patch. If you're a veteran of the Take-5 and the TO5 in relation to that, you know that there's an ability to use a shortcut to make an init patch, but unfortunately, here we go. It's right here. Creating a program. If you see here, it says there's a quick shortcut for creating the basic program. Hold down transpose down, then the low split -2 button. Guess what we don't have on here, Sequential? Guess what we don't have? Why would you make a brand new manual and clarify that that's in there when this synth does not have the capability? Yeah, one of my longtime viewers, suggested I try holding down. I forgot which buttons it was. It's right and manual, right? So, yeah, that doesn't work, unfortunately. I remember that working on the OB6. I think it was the OB6, right? Anyway, so that doesn't work. So you drop the ball on that. It's such a useful feature. And the reason I'm ranting about that, because you have to go all the way over here to global, then you have to select all the way. You have to go all the way to I don't even remember where it is. I never remember. You got to go to 28, right? All the way up to 28, and then press load there. That's fine. Oh, preset is off. Whoops, I am in manual mode. Oh. Huh. What the hell? Is that a glitch? Hold on. No, it didn't in it. Oh my god. Okay, so I think I found a glitch. So try and do an init patch while you're in manual mode. Oh, this is just, this is typical Sequential, isn't it? I love their synths. They sound great, but god, did they ever beta test anything? Okay, so there we go. There, basic program. You saw that? You saw that. Oh my god. All right. All right, so now we have an init patch. So it's that annoying. I could just press 2 damn buttons. Or, you could have put an init patch button on here. That would have been really cool. Along with the knob for panning the voices. That would have been cool. You could have, but you know what they did? Well, actually, they didn't. So initially, I thought that they just took the front panel from the Teo-5 or the Take-5, but they actually didn't. They made a new front panel for this. So this has the new, at least left side PCB. I think the right side might be identical. There's 2 PCBs in it. It's split down the middle. But the LFOs are combined now. So you have the LFOs here. So you actually have to go through the channels. So yeah, they could have 100% added a new button somewhere here, maybe for an, like, put it right here. Could put it right there. You could have had a init button, and then you could have had a knob for voice panning. That would have been really cool. But no, we're not going to do that. We're going to release this at the pretty much the same price that it's $100 less than the Teo-5 initially launched for, and if you don't count the stupidly expensive tariffs that went on to the Teo-5. So, and I think those have, like, they're not in place yet on a lot of things, and yet they keep the price. But it's a business, whatever. All right. So anyway, rants aside, I have this. Okay, actually, I have another rant. This got sent through FedEx. I live in Arizona. Perfect Circuit isn't. This is nothing against Perfect Circuit. Perfect Circuit is in Burbank, California, and I'm in. Let's just say I'm in the valley here. It doesn't matter. Mesa is a big place. I'm in Mesa, Arizona. It's a shithole, but it's there. They sent the synth all the way to Tennessee and then back to Arizona. What the hell, FedEx? Really? Really? Oh my god! But yeah, So yeah, we have an init patch. Let's do that patch that I've been doing, like that really fun PWM patch. I played with it earlier on this, and it sounds really good. I was actually surprised because this is a 12 dB filter that it works really well on this. This is smoother than actually. You should always think that some filters are smooth because they are. But all right, so let's go ahead and turn off the cutoff, and then we're gonna go ahead and start sweeping. Maybe that's a little too high. Let's add some resonance, right? Let's add a lot of resonance. Maybe a little too much resonance there, but no, I think that sounds good. And then we got to go into the program menu because key tracking is under a menu. We want to go over here to filter key track. Let's turn it up to 100. 100 is good. You can hear that on the low note here. All right, cool. And then maybe we want to turn down the cutoff a little bit, right? Let's try up higher notes. Yeah, that's a good amount of key tracking, I think. And let's shape the envelope really quick. So we're not going to use the filter envelope. We're just going to use the main envelope. Oh yeah, here's another thing. This is always a thing on a lot of sequential synths. If you're in a menu or something, none of the controls work. Well, okay. I take that back. Never mind, they don't. Oh, you have to be in the global menu, and they don't work in the global menu? Let's try that. I think it's if you're in the global menu. Yeah. So if you're in the global menu, none of the controls work. It's kind of obnoxious, so. Okay, I think that sounds good right around there. Yeah, so the attack is up. Let's add a bunch of release. All right, and let's do the other thing that we're going to do with this. We're going to go into the program menu, then we're going to find the LFO settings. We're actually going to find a few settings before we get real started here. So it's an LFO here. We want to set LFO note reset to off for LFO2. LFO2 is our poly LFO. We're going to use that as a pitch LFO. And just turn that off. That sets the LFO to be free running. So that'll be fun. And then we want to go back down here. It's somewhere in here. We got to find envelope reset. So let's do that. It's like envelope key reset. Key on. let's see. Right here, envelope retrig. We want it to be on. So there we go. So every time we press a key, it's going to retrig the envelope, which is great because it's going to be a pad. We don't want it to do this weird thing. So yeah. Okay, we have all the basics set. Now what we want to do is turn on oscillator 2. And we want to turn on square on both the oscillators, and then we want to go ahead and turn off the sawtooths on both the others. Beautiful, right? Alright, now let's add some detune to oscillator 2 so it'll sound nice and massive and almost chorusy, so... Let's add a little more attack to there. Even more attack. I forgot the envelopes are weird on this. Yeah, the curves, I should say. They're digitally controlled. I wish you had the option to make your own envelopes on this. It's most of this, I mean, there's all the control on this. They even call this a hybrid synth now. I noticed that, well, at least the Take-5 is now called a hybrid synth. If you go onto the sequential website, they've moved everything from being like in their standard section, they've moved the Take-5, at least the Take-5 over as being a hybrid synth, because it is. The VCAs are digital on this, and all the control section is digital, and most of all the effects are digital. But that said, you have so much control that you can do in the microcontroller that you should be able to have the option of changing the envelope shapes. That would be really cool. But you know. I mean, even like the OB6, was it? Yeah, the OB6 has the ability to let you change the envelope curves on the filter envelope, doesn't it? And that's a true analog synth other than the digital controls. That has a totally analog signal path other than the digital effects. So, all right. So we have 2 square waves, and we're going to use pulse width modulation. And they did fix the LFO bug. It's a little touchy. You remember I had the problem with the LFO bug. A bunch of people had a problem with the LFO bug, so they've finally fixed that. I knew it was software. It's kind of still touchy. You'll see what I mean. So what we want to do is go here into the LFO section. You want to press the destination button. And what we want to do is go down here, and we want to put the destination to all detune. And we're in LFO 1. So, by the way, you can obviously do this on the keyboard version. It's just going to be a little different because you have 2 separate LFO controls. But yeah, so this will work. So we want to turn it to maybe around 34 or so. You have that nice little vibrato. You hear that? You know what? Actually, we don't want to do the detune on that because that is the mono LFO. So actually what we're going to do is you hold down the destination here. We're going to make that the PWM. There we go. That's way too fast though. And let's turn the amount up actually. You can actually go negative here. Now we're going to go positive. And then we're going to change the pulse width here until it sounds nice. We can go to 0 obviously, but... Alright, now that we have a basic for this, let's mess with the cutoff. We have key tracking on, as you remember, to 100%, or it's not 100% because it's 0 to 127 on this, so it's like maybe 90% or so. So let's turn it down. I'm playing a low note here. Gorgeous. Let's turn up a little more resonance. I think that's gorgeous. So let's go to our second LFO. We're in our second LFO mode. And what we're going to do is we want to destination this, and this is the one we're going to set to be the destination of all frequency, and we're going to turn the frequency like maybe to around here. Wish still no parameter display on the damn display. Maybe they're trying to show you that there's no parameter drift, even though there is. There's a little parameter drift still there, but it's not constant like it used to be when the bug existed. So yeah, we want it maybe right around 32. Have it nice and let's start with slow, right? Oh, that's all frequency. We don't want that. We want that to be all detune. Otherwise, all frequency is going to go through large amounts of semitones, not just synths. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm going to stop talking for a second and then listen to how when it drifts out, the pad drifts out, you get this lovely pitch vibrato. God, that's amazing, and that filter is just lush and lovely, and we can even make this even more awesome by adding the sub. We're going to. All right, so let's add one of my favorite features. Too bad it doesn't have a knob, but we'll take what we can get. All right, so we're already in the mod matrix, so what we want to do is just pick an empty mod slot. We'll use 15. You want to go over and find it is voice spread, I believe that's what it's called. Yep, voice spread. And then we want to set that to panning, and you see it's a poly destination, and panning should be a poly. Or, sorry, it's a poly source, and that's a poly destination. I turn it up to 100. You can do it as you will. I just like a lot of pan separation. Octave here. We can make it even a little better sounding by adding some vintage to this. Let's add the vintage like halfway up. It's subtle, but it's nice. Let's turn it all the way up. You can hear the filter closes and opens at different intervals with the vintage all the way up, right? Let's turn it at halfway again. Halfway is nice, right? We want a little more attack on there. Let's do a lot of attack. Make this a fun pad. A little less resonance. It's a little hollow sounding. Gorgeous. I love that. Okay, so there you have it. There's why I love the Teo-5 so much. It's great, and I'm glad to have one finally back, or not finally, but back in my studio. And it's just such a nice unit being in a compact form factor. It's easy to film for setups like mine, and there's not much bad I can say about it. I mean, yeah, the knob quality isn't as good as other synths I've had. Of course, I'm not the biggest fan of these. They're a lot more sturdy on this synth, but they're still form casted to be a little wonky looking from the plastic molding. So they seem to be off center when they're really not. It's just bad form casting, and unfortunately the knobs aren't, or I should say the potentiometers aren't bolted to the chassis, but that does make replacing the boards underneath really easy. I mean, the one thing I do like about Sequential, and I always say this, Sequential / Oberheim nowadays, their synths are very serviceable, which you can't say about a lot of other synths on the market. I'm sure this thing is just as easy to take apart as the keyboard version, and more so because it's smaller and, it's compact. So, but I haven't tried yet. And I'm not going to because there's nothing wrong with my unit. So, good stuff. Well, other than the fact that there's no easy way to do an init unless I'm missing a control, but the manual clearly says there should be a transpose button, which doesn't exist. All right, now that rant is over, let's add a little bit of effects to make this sound even better. I really do like the delay and the chorus on this. Unfortunately, you can't use the delay and chorus at the same time. I wish you could. I wish that the reverb wasn't just a reverb, it was the second effects slot, so you could potentially use it as your reverb, but instead you could also use it as a delay and a chorus together. That would be really cool. They still haven't listened to that. I don't think they will ever do that, but whatever. So let's go to the type here. Let's go ahead and switch it to the BBD. As I've said before in my other videos, the BBD and the standard delay are the only two stereo delays on it. The BBD will keep ping-ponging if you have pan spread set up. The standard delay will not keep ping-ponging, but the first attack on it will have a stereo spread, so it's a little interesting. So we'll just do it on the BBD, turn it on. We're going to turn up the mix. We're going to turn it halfway. We're going to turn a little bit of feedback up, time right about here. Now this is going to sound really cool. Watch. Accidentally touched one of the damn pads on my launch key. Sorry about that. Problem with a delay this long is if you fuck up at all, it's going to be in that delay buffer. Gorgeous. Okay. While the reverb is not good in my opinion, it's not terrible either. I think it's better than the reverb on the Artemis for sure. Unfortunately saying that because a lot of the other effects are actually decent on the Artemis. I was actually thinking about just waiting and getting another. I mean, I always wanted a new Teo-5 desktop version, so that wasn't going to not happen. But because of everything I sold, I still have with how I have everything structured this year and what I want to do personally on a financial level, I can still get one other synth this year, one fairly decently priced synth. So, I'm still either thinking, do I get a Take-5 module, which is quite a bit cheaper than the Artemis, or do I just go and see if I can get a working Artemis finally? Because the Artemis is a really good sounding synth. It is a little too simplistic, like I've said in my video, so maybe the Take-5, yes, the Take-5 is pretty much the same synth, but the oscillators work differently in it, and it does have that sequential, or I should say that Prophet-esque filter, which I love. I love Prophet filters, and I obviously love some filters, but yeah, so anyway, let's go back to the reverb. Let's do it around here. We want to turn the size all the way up, pre-delay all the way down, and because I don't have knob catch-up turned on, which is the most delicious catch-up. Let's turn the tone to around here, decay right around here, and this should sound pretty epic. Here, off, right. Still sounds nice. That's just with the delay. One thing that I really like with having a reverb on that, and I would recommend highly, I mean, if you're in this price point, just get a nice external reverb or something, or use a plug-in on your computer or your DAW when you're recording this into, because it really smooths the vibrato out to sound like lush and beautiful compared to just being a little too overbearing. That's why I did this. And also the delay. The delay works fine on this, but especially the delay kind of smooths that out and makes it sound more like this beautiful nostalgia trip instead of just being like a broken synth. So gorgeous, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I mean, that's just a quick pad. I mean, you're gonna see this in more videos. I really wasn't sad that I got rid of the Teo-5, but I noticed that most of my videos that did really well were on the Teo-5 patches, and I just want to get back into Teo-5 patches. I'll still do, also my multi-poly patches do really well, and that's obvious because it's a fairly inexpensive synth for what you're getting. Yes, it's fully digital, but damn does it sound good. And is it a complex synth? It is super complex. You can do some really cool stuff, and I'll also bring up some wave state videos. People have still been saying that they love my wave state videos, and I love the wave state, so we'll be doing that. But here's the question: do I get the Take 5 module as well? Do you guys, gals and NBs, still like the Take 5 as well? Do you like that profit filter? Or do you like the Teo-5 filter? I mean, looking at that, these sold out pretty much in the same day that these were available at Perfect Circuit, and the Take 5 is at least still in stock right now. Then I think most people like the Teo-5 more, and I can see why, that the filter is very unique. There's plenty of synths out there with that other filter. I mean, even the Dreadbox Nymphs has that filter, right? So, yeah. Looking at the manual again, kind of cheesed off that there is absolutely no init patch button on this. God damn it, why didn't they do that? Well, either way, you can hear why I like it so much, and I'll be doing more videos. I'm rambling now, but I'm so excited about it. Oh, and the other thing that I'm going to say, that this is one of the few synths out there, analog synths. This is kind of like a sequential thing. Unfortunately, something like the Polybrute, which is absolutely complex to all hell synth, did not have an option to route noise to as a modulation source to an analog destination. You could not route noise to be pitch, for instance. And that does some cool things. I mean, you can do that in here. You can go source, right? Oh, yeah, we're already in that menu. I'm like, what's wrong? No, we're already in that menu. So you can go noise, right? And I can go here to oscillator all frequency, right? And I'm exaggerating it, but yeah, that is great. And you think, hey, this doesn't have filter FM, but it kind of actually does. And a lot of people don't realize it does. You do it through the menu. Again, annoying. It would be nice to have filter FM on the front. I mean, we obviously have 3.0 FM, which is unique. Now that the Artemis has it too, that's why I was interested in the Artemis. I love analog style 3.0 FM. It is really cool. So I could take this, and I can put it to pretty much any poly source destination it works pretty well in, but you can put it to the filter cutoff. So that kind of makes it do filter FM. I mean, you can do lots of things. You could set the output of the second oscillator to the cutoff too, and that would also do filter FM. But yeah, so. Now that's controlling the cutoff. I was so floored that the Polybrute did not have that as a function. But apparently the major reasoning behind that is the noise source. They could have at least generated a digital noise source just as a modulation source, right? I think that's something they could have done. But the analog noise source that's built into the synth that is generated from the oscillators, there's no feedback loop to the digital sections of the synth other than the effects section. So there's no way of really doing that, I guess, or that's what I was told. So it's unfortunate, but you know, the these synths have it. And even like the Trigon and the OB6 and the Prophet 6 have that as a function. You use the sample and hold, and you turn the sample and hold rate all the way up, and it actually connects the noise source. If you read the manual, it's not just really fast sample and hold. It literally connects the noise source out in as a modulation source to whatever destination that's set to. Obviously, with something, I was almost going to get a flagship synth again and get a module. I was going to get the OB8X or whatever. I always forget the naming, but the lack of mod matrix is so just disappointing in a synth of that price point. This is their cheapest synth right now. Well, among the Take-5 is actually the cheapest synth. The module of that, it's $100 less than even this, but it's annoying that they're high-end synths other than the Rev 2, which I don't know. Is the Rev 2 still in production? I see it in stock places, but yeah, there's no mod matrices on their high-end synths. I'm just like, damn. I know that they want to be like, you know, authentic to, you know, the olden days, but come on, if you're spending that much on a modern synth, give us the old-timey sound of a cool-sounding synth and filter combo with modern stuff. So I think that's where these nail it. Yes, they're hybrid synths, but they're hybrid in the right ways, kind of just like the Summit and the Peak were. A little different ethos to those, but yeah. All right, that's kind of the end of that. I hope you enjoyed my little rants and walkthrough and stuff on why I love these synths so much. And yeah, I'm still gonna think about that Take-5. I actually have some extra credit to use over at Perfect Circuit. They have like a point system, something that a certain other retailer doesn't do unless you use their stupid ass credit card. So yeah, all right. Talk to you later, and I'll see you next time. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel and you like my content, go ahead and subscribe. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. All right, bye finally.